Endings aren't failures, they're milestones. That isn't motivational fluff, it's a precise way to read your life. You see, every person you meet holds a role, reason, season, or lifetime. Misread the role, and you grieve what was never meant to stay. Let me put it to you this way. If the universe keeps handing you the same exam, it's not punishment, it's curriculum. Watch on, and I'll show you how to identify the lesson, honor the chapter, and protect the bonds worth keeping. The payoff? Less clinging, more gratitude, and a clearer map for who belongs where in your life. You know, there's something rather curious. Most endings feel like betrayal, yet many are simply contracts that reach their natural expiry. If you could tell the difference, your nervous system would soften, less alarm, more breath, because you'd stop treating every goodbye like a verdict on your worth. Let me put it to you this way. Reason, season, lifetime isn't a label you slap on people. It's a lens you look through when the story shifts. A lens doesn't trap anything. It clarifies contours. With the right lens, you reduce clinging and increase choice. Who to thank, what to release, where to invest. Here's what happens when you don't have that lens. Most people collapse all endings into failure. The ego reads departure as rejection. Then the constant chattering interference starts. Loops, what-ifs, invented motives. Not truth, but noise. And in the noise, you miss the simple signal. The contract did what it came to do. Consider a train ticket. Some tickets carry you 2 stops, others take you across the whole country. Demand that a 2-stop ticket become transcontinental, and you don't extend the journey, you just suffer through it, resentful and confused. When you read the ticket, you travel clean. Research points to a useful move here, cognitive reappraisal. When you rename an ending from "I failed" to "the purpose concluded," emotional intensity drops, ambiguity eases, rumination loosens its grip. Naming the type of connection is not denial, it's precise calibration. Take a colleague who sharpened your thinking during an intense project. Daily huddles, tough feedback, new skills. Then, as the project closes, the closeness thins. That's not abandonment, that's season fulfilled. The growth remains, the container dissolves. Another thing the awake person sees is pattern repetition. When the same exam keeps showing up, same conflict, different face, it isn't cosmic cruelty, it's an unresolved lesson requesting integration. The question isn't, why me? But what skill is overdue? Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Once you have language for reason, season, lifetime, the diagnostic signs feel almost embarrassingly clear. You stop forcing mismatches. You trade grasping for gratitude. You become selective about the journeys you protect. Your job isn't to keep every passenger on board. Your job is to know which journey you're on, so you can wave at the right station, stay seated for the long ride, and thank the conductor who taught you how to read the map. Now, how do you spot a season before you mistake it for a lifetime? What if the closeness you're grieving was never meant to be permanent, and the proof was visible from week 1? Not a betrayal, but a chapter with a cover and a back page, already printed the day you met. A season is proximity-driven resonance. You share a gym hour, a semester's workload, a neighborhood crosswalk, a project with deadlines that force daily contact. Alignment arises because contexts align. Then the context dissolves, and the bond releases with it. Not failure, completion. Here's what happens when ego runs the show. Intensity gets mistaken for destiny. Proximity inflates meaning. Constant messages, shared jokes, problem solving at 10 p.m. And when the container ends, the mind shouts abandonment. But that's the illusion of the separate self, grasping for permanence where the design never offered it. Let me put it to you this way. Think of an orchard. Trees blossom together in spring, exchange pollen, thicken their fruit in summer, then shed everything in winter. Not one of them is failing when the petals fall. The season changed. The roots keep what was exchanged as nourishment, sugar stored, growth rings added. Research on social networks during life transitions sees this clearly. When you move cities, switch roles, or enter a new program, transitional ties transfer the norms, the shortcuts, the hidden doors. Lean, efficient exchanges that help you adapt, then taper as the landscape stops feeling foreign. Take a startup cohort. Crisis-packed days, shared sprints, late-night fixes, intimacy forged through urgency. Funding closes, the sprint ends, the daily pulse quiets. The purpose was skill, practice, and a professional dialect you now speak. The bond did its work without promising forever. Another thing the awake person sees is the quiet value of weak and temporary ties. They bridge circles your closest people don't touch. New perspectives, unexpected routes, opportunities hiding 1 degree away, often delivered by someone you'll never call at 2 a.m. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. I'll give you a simple checklist that separates season from reason, without the overthinking that keeps you stuck. Signs of a season: a time-bound container. Contact driven by context. Growth delivered without deep value collisions. When it concludes, end clean. Say thank you, not why did you leave me? Let me put it to you this way. When pain carries a precise lesson, you're often in reason territory. How do you tell if the person who broke your heart actually handed you the compass you were missing? Not by replaying the arguments, no, by tracing what became visible in you that was hidden before the rupture. A reason encounter is catalytic. Someone arrives and, through friction or fascination, they surface a blind spot you couldn't see on your own, a boundary you didn't know you were crossing, a value you claimed in theory but violated in practice. They don't have to stay. Their function is revelation, and revelation alters your trajectory. Here's what happens when pain runs the narrative. Pain demands a villain, and most people stop there. The awake move asks a sharper question. What skill or clarity arrived with the ache? Not punishment, but instruction. Not blame, but integration. Let me put it to you this way. Think of a lobster. It grows until the shell becomes tight, pressure builds, and the discomfort forces molting. The soft new layer is exposed, vulnerable, then hardens into a larger home. Discomfort isn't the enemy, it's the signal that expansion is due, and the old casing no longer fits. Research on post-traumatic growth points to a reliable path. Structured reflection after rupture can increase appreciation, personal strength, and relational wisdom. When you name what cracked, what value emerged, and what action follows, the distress becomes data. It organizes your next choice rather than hijacking it. Consider a romance that reveals boundary collapse. You said yes to things that were a no. You overgave to keep peace. The ending stings, sharp, concentrated, but it delivers non-negotiables you now honor. How you speak up early, how you space your time, how you listen to your first signal of strain. Another thing the awake person sees is repetition compulsion, the same pattern appearing in different clothing until it's integrated. The universe as curriculum isn't mystical here. It's psychology noticing that unlearned lessons return with higher contrast to get your attention. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Reason pain differs from lifetime friction. Reason feels compressed, high contrast, and it yields a specific lesson that instantly changes behavior. Lifetime friction, by contrast, happens inside a durable bond designed to repair, not to eject. So, signs of reason, short timeline, stark clarity, a lesson that rewires your next move. They don't need to return for the growth to remain. Another thing the awake person sees is that some bonds aren't tests or chapters. They're quiet, enduring ground. If you stopped chasing intensity, what steady signals would reveal a bond built for decades? You know, there's something rather curious here. The loudest connections rarely last the longest. The quiet ones do, the ones that keep showing up when nothing dramatic is happening. A lifetime bond is durable alignment, values that rhyme, mutual respect that doesn't wobble with mood, a capacity to repair that is practiced rather than promised, and a horizon measured in years, not dopamine spikes, not spectacle, but steadiness, not fireworks, but a steady flame you can warm your hands by. Here's what happens to most people. Drama gets misread as depth. Big swings feel like proof of passion, and the quiet skill of repair gets ignored. But the awake person notices that longevity is predicted not by intensity, but by trust you can lean on, by responsiveness when it's inconvenient, by the ability to tidy a conflict without leaving shards. Let me put it to you this way. Think of a lighthouse. Storms come, waves rage, fog rolls in, yet the light keeps its rhythm, unpersuaded by weather. Excitement fades, guidance remains. You don't love the lighthouse because it dazzles. You rely on it because it is there, again and again, when conditions are poor. Research points toward steady predictors of stability. Trust that accumulates through behavior, a positive sentiment that keeps disagreements from going nuclear, responsiveness that signals, "I hear you," and reliable repair after conflict, actually closing the loop rather than shelving it. These are measurable in daily micro moves, not grand gestures. Consider a mentor who remains through your role changes. Titles shift, schedules tighten, the themes of the conversation evolve, from tactics to strategy to meaning, but the respect does not wobble. When you falter, they don't flinch. When you grow, they celebrate without envy. Quiet, reliable continuity.